Hey you guys, it's Peter, and welcome to my channel, Peter Watches TV, where I watch all the TV shows, and then I come over here and I react to them. And today, I want to talk about the new documentary on Netflix called Titan, the Oceangate disaster. So, let me tell you how I even came to watch this documentary, first of all. And I don't even know really what to say about this documentary. I mean, I finished it and I was kind of like, I don't even know. I don't even know what to think about this documentary. I have so many thoughts. It was a very bizarre documentary. I didn't really know a lot going into it about this whole situation other than what I had seen going online, being talked about online years ago when it happened. It happened in 2023. But let me tell you, first of all, the synopsis for the documentary. Titan, the Oceangate submersible disaster. Oceangate's Titan tourist submersible imploded in 2023 on a deep-sea dive to the Titanic. This documentary details how a bold vision ended in tragedy. So, I started watching this the other night, and one of the reasons why I watched this instead of one of the other shows I was going to watch and react to over here is because we were having really bad storms in Indianapolis. The electricity was getting ready to go out, and so I just got quickly on my iPad and I started downloading shows so that I could watch them because I knew we wouldn't have Wi-Fi. The electricity ended up going out for hours and hours, and so, well, like I think 18 hours in total. So the only two shows that I had downloaded were Titan, the Oceangate disaster, and Department Q, which I have 3 episodes left. Department Q, I would highly recommend. So I started watching Oceangate, and then later I put up, so I have a Instagram associated with this account called Peter Watches TV. If you want to see what I'm watching in real time, I post over there in my stories, like everything that I'm watching every night. And then like I put posts up about the different shows, whether I'm going to react to it and do a video, whether I'm not. Whatever show I finish, I put a post over there about. It's just something I started doing recently. So anyway, I put up on my Instagram stories that I was watching, I think it was at the time that I was watching it, and people started messaging me, direct messaging me, and being like, there's a much better documentary on Discovery Plus. And I was like, oh, I didn't even know that there was another documentary. So I was like, okay, well, I'll watch this one, and then if I like it, then I'll go watch the Discovery one. And my plan was to kind of compare the two. I was going to actually watch both of them and compare the two. I'll be honest with you, after watching this one, I don't really have enough interest to watch another one. The story for me is very, very sad. And just to compare this, it's not just about this story. It's not like saying, like, I'm not interested in this story. It's like, okay, for example, with the Murdaugh murders. I've seen like 2 or 3 documentaries. I don't need to see another documentary about the Murdaugh murders. I know that people are really, really interested in the Murdaugh murders. I'm like, for me, I get kind of saturated with something, I move on. With the Kristen Shanann Watts case, that was another like true crime that I watched like 2 documentaries about it, and I was like, I cannot do this anymore. Like, I would rather watch something I don't know anything about than watch 5 documentaries about something that and they kind of overlap, and there's a lot of the same people in them and a lot of the same information. So unless you guys tell me that I absolutely need to watch the one on Discovery Plus, which that one I believe is called the Titan Sub. Is this the one? The Titan Sub Disaster. Anyway, the other one came out just around the same time because it says people are talking about, I watched the implosion, it's called Implosion, the Titanic sub-disaster, and it just aired on May 28th on the Discovery Channel. People are saying that one is better than this one, but I don't think that I'm going to watch both of them. I just don't. So going into this, in all honesty, all I really knew about it was that I thought it was like 5 or 6 people had gone on this submersible submarine, this very small submarine, to go down and view the Titanic. I knew that at some point the ship that it had come from had lost contact and with the submersible, and that like 2 days had gone by and that people were worried about them running out of air and things like that, and that at some point they found out that it had imploded and that everybody on the submersible had died. That was really all I knew about it going into it. I can remember there was a lot of stuff on social media at the time about it. I'm not a big TikTok person. My husband loves TikTok. Do not spend much time on TikTok at all. And so I didn't see a lot of the TikToks about it and stuff like that. And I also don't go to Twitter or X or whatever. I have an account over there, but I don't post on it. I don't go to Twitter at all, whatever. So I wasn't seeing the tweets. I wasn't seeing TikTok and stuff like that of what people were posting about the Oceangate situation. So I didn't really know in depth the whole backstory or even any of the backstory. That's all I knew. What I did see that people were posting online, in all honesty, I thought, whether you think it's a stupid idea to go down the Titanic, whether you think that these people are billionaires and have tons of money, whatever you think about it, I felt like there were a lot of really gross and tacky jokes that people were making online. And so I kind of steered a lot away from the whole story at the time that people were talking about it online. And that might be part and parcel why I don't really know a lot about the case. I will tell you that I have a very strange fascination with the story of the Titanic. I always have, even long before the Titanic movie came out. Like when I was a kid, I can remember getting books from the library and reading about the Titanic. When I was growing up, you would still hear like there'd be like a survivor on Donahue or on Oprah or something like that. Some of the talk shows would have like Titanic survivors that were like in their 90s and whatever. And so I remember growing up and you would hear, I mean, you heard a lot about the Titanic when I was growing up. Then when the movie came out with Leonardo DiCaprio and Kate Winslet, the movie came out, I don't know how old I would have been. It was after I got sober because I was with my first boyfriend. So I would have been at least 23. So it would have been between 23 and 28. I don't know how old I was or what year it came out. But I remember going to see it because he was obsessed with Leonardo DiCaprio. He wanted to see it. I think Leonardo DiCaprio and I are the same age. He might be a little older than me. But he wanted to see it the day that it came out. I remember we went to the movie theater and there were no seats left in the movie theater. And we had to sit on the floor in front of the first row on the ground, like not up, like on the ground. And I'll never forget when the Titanic went by, like in the opening scene, we were like this. I was like, this is ridiculous that we were sitting on the floor watching Titanic. But we did. We watched it there. So anyway, that was one of the that's like one of the only movies I've ever seen the premiere to. That and Blair Witch Project were like, I think those are two movies that I saw them premiere to. So when I went into this, I didn't really know what to think about it. And I thought, oh, this will be interesting. There'll be a lot of footage of the Titanic. They'll go in and they'll tell about why these people are so interested in it. I didn't really know a whole lot about it. Well, when you go in and you find out about it, and there's a lot of articles that are being written about it right now. Titan viewers left unsettled by Oceangate CEO's chilling comment in Netflix documentary. I watched the Titan submersible documentary on Netflix, but there's another new one. Titan Oceangate disaster documentary review. Netflix uncovers it all. 2 years after Titan imploded, here's the latest on the Oceangate investigation. It's an open investigation right now. The Coast Guard is still investigating it, and I think there's like 3 investigations going on. So let me just read you a quick article about this whole situation. Netflix viewers have been left disturbed by a moment in the documentary about a fatal Titan submarine, and it goes in here and it talks about the fact that tells the story of the events that led to the deadly implosion while 5 people were deep underwater on June 18th of 2023. And then it goes on and it talks about all this. It talks about Stockton Rush, who is the CEO of Oceangate. So Stockton Rush was this very handsome, older gentleman that was the CEO of Oceangate. He basically wanted to be like the next Bill Gates, next Elon Musk, leading like the industry. And instead of taking people to space, he wanted to take them underwater. And so he started coming up with this idea of taking submersibles to the Titanic. At one point, they take it to the Andrea, I can't remember. Anyway, the site of the whatever ship that sank. What I didn't realize about this was that originally when I watched the news, I thought this was like the first time and only time that the submersible had ever gone down. I can remember people being like, you couldn't pay me enough to go in that thing. I would never go in it. I did not realize like their summer season is, I think they do like, there's 25 opportunities to go down to the Titanic in a summer, and they did like 9 one summer. So this was not the first time they had done it. And it goes in and it describes all this stuff. And it was, to be honest with you, it was all done on layman's terms, but they go in and they describe about how they try to build like the lightest submersible. And it's a lot of like cutting money and things like that. So they use this carbon stuff, and they go and they describe this whole carbon thing. They go in there and they interview a lot of people that used to work for Oceangate, from people that were pilots of the submersibles to people that every person that worked there had to have a title. They couldn't just be like passengers. And the whole thing behind it was that it wasn't just like you paid $1 billion. It wasn't even that much. I can't remember how much they said it was. It was like 100,000 or something like that. But you paid to go down and see the Titanic. And you could, like, if you went on, like, one of these boat trips, I think it was, like, 7 days. They actually had a YouTuber on there at one point that went there, and, like, he couldn't go do it the last day. But they did take him down in the submersible, but then they had to come, like, back up. And so... But if you were there on the ship for like a week, they would try it every single day. The whole idea behind it wasn't just like you paid $1 billion and then a pilot took you down there to Titanic and you're like, ooh, there's a Titanic. It wasn't that. It was that you were supposed to be like, you're paying to be on the ship and work with them as like a research team. It was kind of like you paid money to be part of the experience of what it was like as a research team. It's what I understood from the documentary. Maybe I got it completely wrong. I don't know. So it interviewed all these people. A lot of the people had a lot of issues with how this Stockton guy was engineering the submersible, how he was like, he really wouldn't take no for an answer, how he talked to people. When people kind of like came up against him, he just kind of like, he just would like get rid of them, and he basically forced them in a position where they had to resign or he would have to force them out. And so basically he was just surrounded by a bunch of yes men. He was not going to take no for an answer. They did all these investigations of the submersible, and they found out that it had crack in it. They just pushed forward and made a bigger one. I mean, it was just really sad to watch, because every person that had worked at Oceangate that no longer worked there would say, we knew this was going to happen at one time or another. I think, for me, in all honesty, I thought it was an intriguing documentary because it told the backstory from the point of view of a lot of the people that had worked there. And it was very honest, too. This one woman that worked there, she was, like, being trained to be, like, one of the pilots. She had started there when she was in school. And so it started as, like, an internship. I can't remember what her name is. Emily, I think. And, they asked her, like, she had all these issues with working there. And so she goes, you're going to ask me why I stayed, right? And he's like, yeah, that was going to be my next question. And she was like, all of my friends, it was during the lockdown, all of my friends were out of jobs. And she was like, I had a job that I was still getting paid for. And so I was like, well, you might as well not quit a job while you have a job when all your friends were out of jobs. I mean, it was very real answers of why some of these people stayed. A lot of these people stayed out of ethical reasons because they thought that they could convince the CEO to change the way that he was doing things. And only at the point when they would come up against him. I mean, one of the things I thought was interesting, that they didn't go in and talk a lot about it, but this one guy, this one engineer had, I think he was Irish, he had like a lot of issues. He and his wife ended up like doing a civil lawsuit. Oceangate ended up suing them and trying to comfort them. I mean, it was really bad. But the CEO said, I want you to do a full investigation of the submersible and like give me all of your feedback. Well, when he did was when he got fired. When he did was like when basically they said you need to like leave. And so, but I was like, there was no discussion in there. He never once said, or they played the tapes of the meeting and they didn't once ever say, like, if it were me, I would have said, you asked me to do this. You asked me to do an investigation and tell you my findings. Now I'm getting fired for my findings. Like, it was interesting that they didn't, like, none of the people, they were so scared of him. It was like a really bad work environment. And they kind of insinuated that, and they would talk about, like, how if you didn't say what he wanted to say, then you were kind of, like, scared of your position and things like that. It just was a really, really sad documentary. And in all honesty, I mean, I wish they would have talked a little bit about the 5 people that died. They didn't talk, they showed pictures of them. They didn't talk about them at all. At all. Like, this documentary did not talk about the victims at all. The people that died. At all. It talked about him, the CEO, and he died because he was the pilot of it. But it didn't talk about them at all. I mean, as many trips as they took down there, they really didn't show that much underwater footage either of like the Titanic and what they did down there and things like that. I was kind of surprised about that a little bit. I mean, it was mostly just face-to-face interviews with these people, which was interesting. It was interesting to see it. On the heels of having just watched the 3-part HBO documentary called The Mortician, which if you didn't watch my reaction to that, it's about this man named David Sconce, who was running the cremations at the Lamb Funeral Home in California, and they found out that he was cremating multiple bodies together and doing all this other heinous stuff, and harvesting body parts and whatnot. That whole documentary to me was all about greed. This arrogance, ego, pride, and greed. This was another documentary, and it was like, here yet again, you know, we have another man that is pushed and driven by arrogance, ego, pride, and greed. Like, he would not take no. It wasn't his love of the ocean. It wasn't his love of the Titanic. The only person, actually, that's not true. The only that they didn't talk about, the other people, the one person they did talk about was this French scientist. They interviewed his daughter, and they talked about him a little bit, and he was like a Titanic enthusiast. He knew a lot about the Titanic. But they even said, they asked her, they said, did anybody contact you from Oceangate when your dad died? And she said no. They didn't say we were sorry. They didn't reach out to us at all. But the other people that were on this ship, they didn't talk really about their background stories at all. It felt to me very inconclusive. It felt to me kind of like, today, I feel like when I used to watch documentaries back in the day, I felt like you got the whole picture. Today, I mean, like, when I watch back in the day, one of my favorite all-time documentaries is The Wonderful Wild Whites of West Virginia. I felt like you saw the good, the bad, and the ugly. I felt like you saw all sides of it. I don't really feel like we saw all sides of this. I think that they went in trying to prove to us what a disaster this was from the beginning and that it should never have been built, which that probably is the truth. But there was nobody that was like saying different sides of this. And it all to me kind of seemed like a little bit of, well, we told them so. To me, a lot of the interviews kind of seems like, in retrospect, let's kind of cover our butts a little bit so nobody blames us. I mean, I felt bad for these people that were involved in what had happened. I mean, I felt bad for the victims, but I also felt bad for the people that were involved in it. But this Stockton guy, I mean, just absolute greed. Just absolute greed. So I don't know. Should I watch the other one? Is the other one that different? The one that's on Discovery Plus? If it's that different, let me know in the comment section below and I will watch it and then I will do a comparison of the two. But in all honesty, I wasn't that thrown out with this documentary. I wouldn't recommend it to anybody. I mean, I just didn't think it was that great. I thought the interviews were interesting, but for me, it kind of seemed like an episode of Dateline. It didn't seem like a huge documentary that you put out. I think it was like an hour and 51 minutes long. It was long. It was okay. I felt like it was very repetitive. It was like 6 people saying the same things. In fact, the part that was the most interesting to me was the Coast Guard interviews they did during the trial. So they're doing like the Coast Guard is doing like an investigation on Oceangate, and they would interview these people, and it looked like, it looked like a Senate hearing is what it looked like. And that part was very interesting to me, but they only showed bits and pieces of it. I don't know if they weren't allowed to show more of that or not. Just a sad, tragic story about greed, ego, and pride. I don't know. To me, it just wasn't, I don't know. I would not recommend it. I thought there's 100 other good documentaries out there about very sad things that have happened in our world. But if the one on Discovery Plus is really that good, let me know and I will watch it and I will compare the two. Anyway, let me know what you thought about it in the comment section below. I love you guys and I will see you tomorrow. Bye.